So the next speaker is Mr. Abdul Rafiq. So his topic is maintaining the Muslim identity and a multicultural society.
Allah wahdahu la syarikalah wa asyhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Amma ba'd. Fa'udzu billahi minasyaitonir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. O mankind, we have created you from a male and female, and we have made you tribes and sub-tribes, so that you can get to know one another. Verily, the most honorable among you is he who is the most righteous among you. Surely Allah is all-knowing, all-aware. Surah Al-Hujurat, verse 13. The summarized commentary of this verse by Hazrat Muslim Maud, the second Khalifa of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, reads, this verse lays down the Magna Carta of human fraternity and equality. It lays the axe at the false and foolish notions of superiority over male over female, all of whom are declared equal in the sight of God. The worth of a human being is not to be judged by the pigment of his skin, the amount of wealth he possesses, or by the rank or social status, descent, or pedigree, but by his moral greatness, and by the way in which he discharges his obligations to God and humankind. The whole human race is but one family. Division into tribes, nations, and races is meant to give them better knowledge of one another in order that they might find benefit from one another's unique characteristics and good qualities. On the occasion of the last pilgrimage at Mecca, the Holy Prophet ﷺ addressed the vast concourse of Muslims and said, O man, your God is one, and your ancestor is one. An Arab possesses no superiority over a non-Arab, nor does a non-Arab over an Arab. A white is in no way superior to a red, nor for that matter a red to a white, but only to the extent of which he discharges his duty to God and man. These noble words epitomize one of Islam's loftiest ideals and principles on the conduct of Muslims. In a society riven with class distinctions, the Holy Prophet ﷺ preached a principle intensely democratic. Respected Chairman, my dear brothers and sisters, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The goal of this discourse is as best as possible comprehension. Thus, I'm going to outline the key talking points of this speech. Think of them as buckets of information with labels on them. These buckets are empty, to be filled with insightful nuggets of information for us to remember the speech better. The first point is to understand what identity means, and I will do that in a very personal manner, to which I hope everyone can easily relate to. Secondly, I'll answer the topic question. How do we maintain a strong Muslim identity in a multicultural society? And we can do that by following the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the sunnah of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in three main points. First, to practice our faith with pride and without fear. Second, to integrate into society. Third, to go beyond social integration and to create a positive social impact for society. But to truly create the framework of a strong Muslim identity, we need to draw the explicit lines against characteristics that destroys this identity. Which comes to my third point, speaking out against the misrepresentations of our Muslim identity. To do that, we need to understand what these characteristics are. We will finally wrap up this discourse with introspection, and for us Ahmadi Muslims, in the challenges that we face, by reminding of ourselves of our own unique identity and obligations. What is identity? When I was 9 years old, I had my first attribution of my own Muslim identity. My primary school implemented an allowance for Muslim students only. On Fridays, while school ended at 1 p.m. for everyone, us Muslim kids could leave early for Friday prayers at 12:30 p.m. In that time, it was not a nationwide normality for schools to end at that time for everyone on Fridays. It was certainly exciting for us boys to cabut early, knowing we had a good 20 minutes to goof around, before catching the bus to go for prayers. We all displayed our sarongs for all to see. Some of my friends had a unique way of showing their fashion sense. Sarongs over the shoulders, sarongs already worn around their hips. Some took their goofiness to another level, as sarongs became capes. We jokingly called them sarong men. As we were waiting for the bus, I quickly had to inject a preamble to avoid a last-minute boarding bus situation. I told my friends out loud, "Hey guys, I'm catching a different bus. I'm going to another mosque." It started. I'm sure every Ahmadi Muslim can relate to the following story in some way. Friend A asked, "Which mosque?" I replied, "Masjid Taha at Geylang." Friend B asked, that one is Qadiani mosque, right?" I'm trying my best to keep it as Singlish as possible, very real. Friend C compounded, "The one opposite Masjid Khalid?" I replied, "Yes." Friend B exclaimed, that one Sesat mosque." Friend A, with a horrified look on his face, "You Qadiani?" Since technically I'm not a Qadiani, but a Singaporean, at the same time I did not want to confuse them too much. I only managed to reply, "Yes, but no." Still confusing to a bunch of 9-year-olds, I know. Unfortunately, their bus arrived and they boarded it. All save friend A did a short, hesitant wave. I can only imagine what the conversation was among my friends in the bus. Over the next few weeks, I was bombarded with a mixture of innocently curious and sometimes mocking questions. But they quickly stopped, as my friends were quick to realize I knew more about Islam than any of them. Well, we all remained friends. I was still labeled the Qadiani, but at least most of the time endearingly. I guess for most kids, life is too gloomy to hate a friend just because he is a bit different. Fast forward many years later, I was 14 years old in an all-boys Catholic secondary school. It was 2001 and 9/11 happened. Camaraderie among boys at that age thankfully kept bigotry towards a minimum, but that did not stop hostile jokes. I call it jokes because it was funny to me at that time. I kind of liked the attention and above all welcomed the opportunity to retort back as boys would do. But I remembered something more than that. Since it was a big event and many people were just only discovering about Islam, intellectual curiosity questions began filling classroom discussions. It's not uncommon, especially in mission schools where religious discussions are allowed in a very matured manner. This went all the way to my university days. In my observation, I noticed a spectrum of responses from us Muslims. On one hand is an intellectual fervor to correct and educate on the deeper meaning of Islam. On the other was a sense of fear and identity embarrassment. It was not easy to intellectually talk about Islam and its true beliefs in our times when, at least not in Singapore, the global sentiment was overbearingly negative. It attributed the same experience about me being a different kind of Muslim when I was younger, being an Ahmadi Muslim, except I was with my fellow Muslims this time, trying our best to portray the most intellectual responses to make sense of whatever was going on to our non-Muslim peers together. I tell this story to give a sense of how important identity is to us all. Every human being has an identity or a set of identities. Think of it like a badge that you wear openly, a badge that answers the question, define yourself in a few words. I, for one, identify myself as an Ahmadi Muslim. I am a Muslim and I believe in the promised Messiah alayhi salam. And as such, I've embraced a set of beliefs of which perhaps may differ a little with other Muslims and people of other faiths. Identity has a profound impact on a person. It gives a sense of happiness, peace, purpose, and if probed unfairly, can cause confusion, stress, sadness, and anguish. Some learn to embrace them deeply, others choose to repress them and seek other identities. In an age of extremism, having a strong outward Muslim identity is a great challenge because of the maddening actions of a few, which not only hijacks the identity of a religion that is supposedly associated with peace, progress, and rationality, but now viewed with violence, intolerance, and in being antisocial. How then do we build a strong Muslim identity in a multicultural society? It is a fair and valid question. On one hand, many of us are deeply connected to our Muslim identity and thus hold on practices and a way of thinking that is unique relative to other people, to people of other faiths and belief systems. On the other, it is natural to become uncomfortably conscious of our place in a multicultural society. This phenomenon is no less prevalent with any identity for that matter, for identity is deep-rooted in being different. We ask ourselves, are there uneasiness because of the global outlook on extremists, which forces us to suppress our identity? Are there social friction because our beliefs and practices clash, inconvenience, or interfere with that of other social norms established in a society? Are we being accepted? Are we a nuisance compared to other faith groups? Have we done enough to better society? Or are we being unfairly misrepresented? Let us first address what a true strong Muslim identity is. I believe a strong Muslim identity is established by practicing our faith with pride and without fear. As Muslims, our rituals and practices should not encroach onto the lives of others, but it does not mean we should be embarrassed about practicing them. Salat, for instance, is an essential duty of every Muslim. Taking a common example, if you are in a social discussion among colleagues and friends, it is about being brave to excuse yourself politely to do your prayers. We should, however, be very conscious as to not inconvenience the activities of people around us, take up shared space, and being so overbearing in our observance of our rituals that it becomes disruptive. In my experience, the candid observance of our Islamic obligations has led to so much more good. I've never got any sense of uneasiness from anyone, at least openly. In fact, in university, there was once I was engrossed in the gym. Yes, I go to the gym a long time ago, a place I obviously need to revisit again, and lost track of time. A Chinese close friend of mine reminded me, Rafiq, I think you're going to miss your prayer time. You see, Zohar time was ending, and I had still not observed them. I was obviously surprised. He was being sincere in reminding me about it. But how did he remember about my obligations? I used to frequently excuse myself from a few social situations, citing that I have to catch my prayers before I miss the time. It seems this friend of mine remembered those situations and obviously caught on to the timings of our prayers. But practicing our faith moves beyond just offering prayers. Practicing our faith also means following a high moral code of conduct established by the Holy Quran and exemplified through the Sunnah of the Holy Prophet ﷺ. It means speaking truth, dealing fairly, not engaging in gossip, keeping good hygiene, and the hundreds of other universally good morals and practices which are fundamental to every Muslim. This transcends the attribution of identity to just a single Muslim, but strengthens the identity of Muslims in the eyes of others as a whole. Let us gather some excerpts from Hadith Bukhari and Muslim about the Holy Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet was never uncouth, ill-mannered, nor did he ever raise his voice in the presence of others. He would never requite evil with evil. Rather, he would prefer to forgive and forget. When given a choice between two matters, he would choose the easier route, so long as it does not transgress God's boundaries. If there were to be such elements, the Prophet would be furthest away from them. He would never bear a grudge, so long as those actions did not trespass the limits set by Allah. If those limits were trespassed, the Prophet will admonish the act. The Prophet was always in constant remembrance of Allah. Whenever he had to attend an event, he would sit at the back, for he shunned the limelight. Whenever someone sat with the Prophet, he always remained patient and will give the person his fullest attention until the person left. Whenever someone sought his help, he would give the seeker what he or she needs. He was always willing to listen and impart advice. Many were attracted to his gentle nature and good morals, such that many looked up to him. His presence brought a sense of tranquility, respect, patience, and sincerity. He will be the most helpful, most firm, most truthful in his speech, and most trusted to discharge his responsibilities. He dealt with everyone courteously. Anyone who met him for the first time will be attracted to his personality, and anyone who stayed close to him will be captivated. The promised Messiah ﷺ said, being the followers of such a great Prophet ﷺ, we have to practice the good to an extent where it reaches its highest perfection. Be firm of faith, and set an example that even the angels in heaven should wonder at your strength. and steadfastness, and should pray for blessings on you. Are these not characteristics universally accepted in any decent society? Let's address the second part of a strong Muslim identity: social integration. Not so long ago, a common sentiment was being spread around the media and internet. Muslims should be less religious to integrate better into society. These statements irk me more than anything because it shows a level of immaturity in the understanding of human beings, their nature, and the penultimate achievement of social harmony, which is to be united despite our visceral differences. To me, being a Muslim is an identity that I'm proud of and I firmly believed in. To us, to be less religious is profoundly insensitive, but it could also stem from a misguided understanding on Islam. As Muslims, we know that Islam fundamentally opposes an antisocial behavior that will especially cause disharmony in a multicultural society. Our beloved Hazrat Khalifatul Masih V, Huzur Ayatollah bin Nasir al-Aziz, reminds us, if a Muslim is not well integrated, he or she is not following the true teachings of Islam. Regardless of his or her country of origin, once an Ahmadi Muslim is living here, they must completely be loyal to his country. This is their religious duty because the Holy Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said that loving one's country is part of a Muslim's faith. Social integration is simple. Based on my observation, Muslims have no problem integrating society any less than people of other faiths and identities. While we may eat different food, it is not uncommon to see Muslims and non-Muslims eat together. The segregation of men and women is a modest practice for among Muslims only, but in no way have we seen Muslims go against established norms in the professional space. This does not mean a Muslim should think that in a circular space we should shed all aspects of our Muslim identity and fully blend in. That is a gross misunderstanding of social integration. One would not expect a Sikh to remove his turban, a core element of his Sikh identity, just so he can be socially and professionally include himself in the strata of society. A matured multicultural society accepts the unique and disruptive differences of people and make it work. And that to me is a true test of social harmony. It really takes two hands to clap. But a Muslim's obligation goes beyond integration. We are enjoined to create a positive impact on society. You are the best people ever raised for the good of mankind because you have been raised to serve others. You are enjoined what is good and forbid evil and believe in Allah. Surah Al-Imran, verse 111. Huzur remind us again of our obligations. The first role of a Muslim is to worship his creator. The second role of a Muslim is to serve humankind. Service to humanity is an obligation upon every human being. We must fulfill the needs of people regardless of their faith, and we should seek to understand one another based upon the principles of humanity. According to the teachings of Islam, if a person fails to do this, then their worship is worthless. The Holy Prophet ﷺ will always look out for the widows, orphans, and the elderly by giving them food and clothes. Zakat, the sacrificing of a portion of your wealth, was established as part of the 5 pillars of Islam and ranked of such importance to help balance the inequalities of wealth in society, and every Muslim follows this commandment strongly. On top of that, for every Ahmadi Muslims, a portion of our income goes to the building of schools, clinics, and hospitals around the world. Every Jamaat in the world is also an active contributor in donating blood to society under the Muslims for Life campaign. Every time an innocent life is shed through a tragic event, often by terrorists, us Muslims mobilize the local communities to collect bags of blood. There can never be enough bags to collect to help save more lives of people whom are ill and in need of this blood. I can quote hundreds of other examples in which us Muslims help society be a better place by being dutiful in our civic duty. But I'd like to particularly touch upon practical ideas in which we can do so much more. These ideas are predicated upon the attainment of knowledge and using them to create a better world for society, which in turn strengthens our Muslim identity. At last year's Jalsa Salana, I spoke about our obligation for attaining knowledge according to the Holy Quran and Hadith of the Holy Prophet ﷺ. I exemplified how early Muslim scientists gave rise to modern mathematics, astronomy, physics, law, economics, trade, and medicine, which impacted the world till today. I also spoke about the decline of Muslim intellectualism over a long period of time, until recently, where the likes of the late Professor Abdul Salam, Islam's first Nobel laureate, has paved the way for Muslims to impact the world again. Inventors, discoverers, policymakers, humanitarian fighters are what all Muslims should strive to be, if not for ourselves, for our children. We may think that it is difficult to attain this, but we can all start somewhere. Even in our humble professional fields, we are and should be making the conscious effort to better society. If you are a teacher, inspire your students. If you are a driver, think of ways you can improve the efficiency of your service for people to benefit from. If you are an accountant, discharge your duties fairly and advise your clients on how they can better the management of their finances. If you are an engineer or a technician, make small inventions that can solve problems for humanity. If you are a manager, create a better working environment for your employees to be productive, to work as a team, and to produce good results that will ultimately benefit society. I am an entrepreneur by profession. I lead an IT organization that designs the user experience of digital applications. While one may think that profit is probably the driving force of any enterprise, in the real world, our collective missions and drives transcends that of money. I am inspired to see every day clients of mine, whom are humble startup entrepreneurs themselves, with zero background and knowledge of IT and business, having noble ideas to improve the lives of people. We work together to design applications and synergize our missions to achieve those goals. In our field, the hallmark of a great IT company is the impact our solutions have in helping society be more productive and efficient. Every day we ask ourselves, how can our designs help solve human problems? So think, as Muslims, what are ways we can push the limits of human service? Remember, it is a commandment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to do so, and is something deeply entrenched in our faith. And if all these examples are the ingredients of a strong Muslim identity, which are undoubtedly deeply contributive towards a multicultural society, then how do we address any suspicions that it is anything less or otherwise? We need to speak out, more so about the characteristics of a few that misrepresents the Muslim identity, so that society know what is and what is not. These characteristics goes against the teachings of the Holy Quran and Sunnah of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. First, possessing an attitude of arrogance and exclusivity. My God is right, your God is wrong. My religion is truthful, your religion is false. My right as a Muslim is important, your rights as a Muslim is not. My way of prayer is correct, your way of prayer is wrong. Second, being secularly uninterested beyond the knowledge of religion. It shows a myopic view that the knowledge of religion is just within the confines of the Holy Quran, whereas we are encouraged to seek knowledge even if you must reach a far distant land to attain it. Third, being compulsive, forcing others to be like you and to believe like you do. The Holy Quran clearly mentions there is no compulsion in religion. Fourth, being disloyal to your country, its laws, and not contributing to its nation building. The Holy Quran states that creating disorder and threatening the stability of a society is a path to damnation, not salvation. Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 12 to 16. Anyone possessing these traits do not possess a strong Muslim identity because they are of no value to society of Islam. They should be called out, admonished, and rehabilitated in the true teachings of Islam and the proper conducts of Muslims. They should be reminded about the commandments of Allah. As best as we can, we should strengthen that Muslim identity that has been in existence since the birth of Islam, to practice our faith with pride and without fear, and to go beyond social integration to create a positive impact on society and for all humankind. I identify myself strongly as an Ahmadi Muslim. In my speech, I use this identity because it is personal. It is part of my experience, and it comes with a unique set of beliefs which differ from others. I'm proud of who I am and what my identity stands for. But it is in no way something divisive. Identity can never be divisive. No one takes a moral and virtuous high ground just by being different. For this reason, I would like to conclude my speech to address just the members of my community, my Ahmadi Muslim brothers and sisters, as we share the same identity and experiences when we talk about tarbiyat of the Ummah. It is best we seek introspection among ourselves first, the tarbiyat of our Jamaat. Our challenges as Ahmadi Muslims are different and unique. We are blessed with the institution of Khilafat to guide us through our Islamic duties and obligation to society. While we know that we are at the forefront of strengthening the Muslim identity in multicultural societies around the world, we need to reinforce them and take them to higher heights more than ever before. Many Ahmadi Muslim youths face an unprecedented amount of prejudices, challenges, bigotry, and persecution today. They risk having their Ahmadi Muslim identity shaken, and some seek to bury it altogether, sadly. We live in a pluralistic society after all. It seems easier to just blend in. This is a natural phenomenon of identity crisis that everyone goes through. It is the duty of educators, parents, and elders of the Jamaat to inculcate the teachings of Islam, spiritually, morally, and rationally. More importantly, we should also develop the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in them. For those of us born as Ahmadi Muslims, we should ask ourselves, why did our forefathers accept Ahmadiyya? If that story was never told to you, seek it. Understand why they accepted Ahmadiyya, the challenges they faced as they took the bay'at at the hands of our Khulafa. We are but recipients of the blessings from their decisions and struggles. Remember, thousands are taking their bay'at to Ahmadiyya daily. These people have chosen a path that is challenging, knowing that they will face an intense persecution if they do so. But they do so because they understand what Islam really means, and they firmly believe in the truth and teachings of the promised Messiah alayhi salam. Remember, this is Noah's Ark. I started this speech with my own personal story, in which I am sure many Muslims and Ahmadi Muslims can relate to. I attest that I've developed a strong Muslim identity according to the teachings of the Holy Quran, but I did so despite external influences, prejudices, and bigotry, like many of you. As I grew up, these situations become of minor importance, and I've become more emotionally matured, always reflecting in the struggles and disfranchisement of others more so than my own. What truly makes me proud of my Ahmadi Muslim identity is first, its teachings. It makes me a better person towards society, a rationally minded thinker, and a morally better servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Second, its people, of which I share a great sense of comfort and security, especially when I come to this mosque, which many of us grew up in. I enjoyed my own Kudam and Atfal brothers to never shy away from Jamaat activities. In my work office, it is clear to my colleagues that on the weekends, I'm usually busy with the work of the mosque. I share what I really do, helping organizing events of the Jamaat, contributing to the Jamaat's decision making, participating in our Khidmat Halak activities, and they marvel at such a sense of responsibility. But we do not do it out of obligation and responsibility. We do it out of the love of our Jamaat and helping society. Third, it's inspiring leadership of our Khulafa, an institution on the basis of the Holy Quran and a living testament of the connection between God and man. I find deep inspiration in watching the question and answer sessions of videos of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih IV, Rahmatullah. I find deep inspiration in the spiritual and moral uplifting messages of our current Khalifa, Huzur, in his Friday sermons. Fourth, and most importantly, the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In times of need and weaknesses, only our Creator will never abandon us, for He is Ar-Rahman, ever gracious, and Ar-Rahim, ever merciful. So I leave us with this message. Be proud of your Ahmadi Muslim identity and make an impact to this blessed, multicultural society we live in to the fullest extent we can. And never forget to pray for our country and our Jamaat, and especially for the millions of people around the world under great suffering. And I hope we can take home this verse from Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 149, which sums up the answer towards the topic question in a simple yet profound way. Be competitive in doing good. Wa akhirul da'wana. Wassalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Allahu Akbar.